Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Erica Ellis. I'm a mindfulness-based clinical psychologist, and I'm here to talk to you guys about mind, body, brain issues. So last time we talked about health, what is health, and the notion that integration, this linkage of differentiated parts, is a hallmark of health. Specifically, in the brain, this concept of integration appears to be an important one. And it seems to be facilitated by an area we call the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC. Now, the prefrontal cortex sits right behind our forehead, and it's like the CEO of our brain. So it governs a host of functions that range from what we call executive functioning, like planning and organization, to our ability to have healthy and connected relationships. The problem is that the PFC is also implicated in almost every psychological and emotional issue there is, including depression, anxiety, panic attacks, stress, relationship issues, trauma, and mania. So the question is, what to do if we're suffering from one of these issues, and presumably our PFC, or our prefrontal cortex, is not working that well. What hope is there for us? Is there hope? And it turns out, yes, there is, very much so. The brain is not hardwired the way we once thought it was. And in fact, we're able to make new connections called synaptic plasticity and build new neurons called neural plasticity. And we're able to do this well into old age. So certain types of exercises and practices can actually facilitate this process of plasticity. And educator and author Dan Siegel, in his book, The Mindful Brain, summarizes the research on these practices called mindfulness practices or mindfulness meditation. And it's shown that tangibly through brain scans and many other studies that these practices have very tangible, profound effects in a pretty short amount of time. So many of us have probably heard of mindfulness or meditation, and some of us are probably even doing it, which is great. It's really started to find its way into a mainstream understanding. So just for point of clarification about the types of mindfulness and the types of practices that have been researched, the main one that's showing changes in our brain is based on something called MBSR, or mindfulness-based stress reduction. And this was founded by a guy called Jon Kabat-Zinn. And Jon Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness as paying attention to the present moment on purpose, without judgment, to the experience as it goes from moment to moment, to the unfolding of experience moment to moment. Right? So paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment to the unfolding of experience moment to moment. The techniques themselves in MBSR are based on ancient practices of Buddhism, of body and breath awareness. And Kabat-Zinn has developed a whole extensive 8-week program, which is largely what's being used to test the brain in these various studies. And it includes things like homework and entire structure around it. And these programs are now set up and available to you guys all over the world. But in the meantime, what's important about it is the more basic principle that becoming aware of your body and becoming aware of your breath, even in small doses, is being shown to have an important effect on our well-being and improving this area of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. So there is emerging research and emerging interest in other areas and other types of meditation. So I often get questions about things like transcendental meditation. What kinds of effect do meditations where you're saying a mantra have versus something like MBSR, where it's more non-agenda and you're trying to broaden your awareness of experience. And the truth is, there really just is more research on the MBSR piece, but there is one vein of research in something called heart math meditation, a technique developed by Doc Shildra and Roland McCready that has a lot of support around it. And in this technique that they've developed, your breath is focused. So rather than just being aware of your breath, you're focusing it at the center of your chest, this area they call the heart center, and you're cultivating a feeling of gratitude. So it's kind of twofold in its intention. And this practice has a lot of support for increasing something called heart rate variability coherence. In layman's terms, we might say that it improves the harmony or the rhythmicity in our body and in our heart. But tangibly, in terms of its effect, by improving your heart rate variability coherence, it also decreases depression, decreases anger, decreases the stress response and anxiety, and improves immune function. So like MBSR, we're seeing in this technique some really promising and tangible effects. So whether or not you choose a more open-ended approach to observing your body, observing your mind, observing your breath, or a more focused intention around gratitude and breathing into your heart center, there's a lot of hope for us to improve this important area of the prefrontal cortex, integration, and our experience of health. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening.